My name is Victoria Hamilton, I'm 32 years old, and I thought I knew my family. That was before the dinner that shattered everything I believed about loyalty, love, and blood ties. The mahogany dining table gleamed under the chandelier as my parents called this family meeting on a crisp October evening. Mom had made her famous roast beef, Dad wore his serious navy suit, and my younger sister Emma sat across from me with an expression I couldn't quite read. At 30, Emma had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who got second chances I never received. Victoria, honey, Mom began, her voice carrying that tone she used when delivering bad news gently, we need to discuss the future of your clinic. My heart stopped. The Hamilton Family Medical Clinic, my life's work, my dream realized after 8 grueling years of medical school and residency. I'd built it from nothing, working 18-hour days, sleeping in my car between shifts at the hospital to save money, sacrificing relationships and social life to make it successful. Dad cleared his throat and pulled out a thick manila envelope. We've had our lawyers draw up some papers. It's time to make Emma a partner in the clinic. She'll handle the business side, you know how good she is with people and numbers. The words hit me like ice water. What exactly are you saying? Emma finally spoke, her voice steady and confident. I'll be taking over as managing partner. You'll still be the head physician, of course, but I'll control operations, staffing, and finances. And I'll receive 25% of all profits moving forward. The room spun. 25% of MY profits? From the clinic I built with my bare hands while Emma was bouncing between yoga instructor certifications and failed online businesses? You can't be serious, I whispered. Dad's expression hardened, the same look he gave me when I was 12 and questioned why Emma got a new bike while I had to earn mine doing neighborhood chores. Victoria, Emma has an MBA. She understands business in ways you don't. The clinic could be so much more profitable with proper management. I stared at the legal documents spread across the table like evidence of my execution. That's when I remembered my briefcase by the door. I'd brought it because I'd been working on insurance contracts all day, never imagining I'd need its contents for this moment. Excuse me for just 1 second, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. I retrieved my briefcase and returned to the table. 3 pairs of eyes watched as I opened it and pulled out a folder marked Partnership Agreements Original. With steady hands, I flipped to page 12 and pointed to section 4.3. Dad, I think you need to read this. His face went from confident to confused to absolutely white as he scanned the text. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. What is it? Emma demanded, reaching for the paper. I smiled, not with happiness, but with the bitter satisfaction of someone who just revealed their trump card. It's the original partnership agreement you both signed when you invested in my clinic 3 years ago. Section 4.3 specifically states that any attempt to alter ownership or control without unanimous consent from all partners, including me, immediately triggers my right to buy out all other investors at market value within 30 days. Mom's fork clattered to her plate. Victoria, surely we can work something out. Oh, we can, I continued, pulling out another document. I had the clinic appraised last month for insurance purposes. Current market value is $2.8 million. Your combined investment was $80,000. At market value, your shares are worth approximately $40,000 each. Dad's hands trembled as he set down the legal papers they'd brought. You planned this. No, Dad. I planned for success. I never planned for my own family to try to steal it from me. The tension in that room could have cut glass. Emma's confident mask had slipped completely, revealing something I'd never seen before, pure, undiluted hatred. But you want to know the real shock? What I discovered next made this dinner betrayal look like child's play compared to what my family had been doing behind my back for years. Let me take you back to understand how we got here, because the roots of betrayal run deeper than one dinner conversation. Emma and I weren't always enemies. Growing up in suburban Chicago, we shared secrets, clothes, and dreams. She was 2 years younger, blonde where I was brunette, outgoing where I was studious. Our parents called us their perfect pair, but even then, I noticed the subtle differences in how they treated us. When Emma failed her SATs the first time, Dad hired an expensive tutor and bought her a car to reduce stress during retakes. When I scored a full scholarship to Northwestern for pre-med, they took us out for pizza. "We're proud of you, honey," Mom had said, "but remember, not everyone needs to hear about your achievements." The message was clear: Emma's struggles deserved attention and resources. My successes were expected and shouldn't make others feel bad. In college, I worked 3 jobs while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. Emma changed majors 4 times, spent spring breaks in Cancun, and graduated with a communications degree she never used. After my medical residency, when I mentioned wanting to open my own practice, Dad surprised me. "We want to invest," he announced over Sunday dinner. $80,000 to get you started. But we want it done properly, with contracts and everything legal. I was grateful but nervous. "Are you sure? That's a lot of money." "Family invests in family," Mom said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "We believe in you, Victoria." Emma had smiled then, raising her wine glass in a toast. "To my brilliant sister and her future empire." For 3 years, their investment seemed like pure family support. They never interfered with my decisions, never asked to see books or question my choices. The clinic thrived beyond my wildest dreams. We grew from me and one nurse to a staff of 12, with a patient list of over 3,000 people. But looking back now, I see the signs I missed. The way Emma started asking detailed questions about my income during family dinners. How she began showing up at the clinic just to visit, chatting with my office manager about appointments and billing. The casual comments about how business-minded she was becoming, taking online courses in healthcare administration. 6 months ago, Emma had started dating Marcus Chin, a lawyer who specialized in small business partnerships. She brought him to family gatherings, where he'd steer conversations toward my clinic, asking about profit margins, expansion plans, and legal structures with the kind of casual curiosity that now seemed anything but innocent. "Victoria's so lucky," Emma had said at Dad's birthday party, her arm linked through Marcus's. "Building something valuable like that. I wish I had her business sense." But it was the conversation I overheard 3 weeks ago that should have warned me. I'd arrived early to Mom's house for dinner and heard voices in the kitchen. "She's too trusting," Emma was saying. "Always has been. Victoria thinks everyone has the same moral code she does." "Are you sure about this approach?" That was Marcus's voice. "Legal challenges within families can get messy." "It won't be a challenge if we do it right," Dad's voice cut in. "Victoria will see the logic once we present it properly. She's always been reasonable about family decisions." I'd crept closer to the doorway. "The clinic could easily support both girls," Mom added. "Emma has such good ideas about marketing and patient experience. And Victoria works too hard anyway, she could use the help. Plus, let's be honest," Emma's voice had an edge I'd never heard before, "I've been watching her operation. There's so much money being left on the table. She's running it like a charity instead of a business." That night, I went home and called my lawyer, not Marcus, obviously, but Jennifer Walsh, who'd helped me with the original partnership paperwork. I asked her to refresh me on all the clauses and protections in my agreements. Smart thinking, Jennifer had said. With the clinic's growth, it's worth reviewing everything. Though I have to ask, is there a specific concern prompting this? I'd hesitated, then admitted, just family dynamics. I want to make sure I understand my rights if anyone tries to get more involved than they should. Now, sitting at this dinner table with legal documents that would have stolen my life's work, I realized how naive I'd been. This wasn't a spontaneous family decision. This was a calculated business move, planned with legal advice and strategic timing. But as I watched Dad's face process the implications of Section 4.3, I knew the real battle was just beginning. Emma's eyes met mine across the table, and what I saw there chilled me to the bone. This wasn't about business at all. This was about something much more personal and much more dangerous. The silence after I revealed Section 4.3 stretched like a hell breath. Finally, Emma laughed, a sound devoid of any warmth. "You really think you're so clever, don't you?" she said, pushing back from the table. "Always the perfect daughter, always one step ahead." "Emma, please," Mom started. "No, Mom. Let's be honest for once." Emma stood, her hands braced against the table as she leaned toward me. "Do you want to know what this is really about, Victoria? It's not about business. It's about the fact that you've had everything handed to you your entire life, and you can't even see it." I stared at her in disbelief. "Handed to me? I worked for every single thing I have." "Really? Who paid for your MCAT prep course? Who covered your living expenses during medical school? Who co-signed your student loans when the bank initially refused you?" The room tilted slightly. Those were things my parents had helped with, yes, but that's what families do for each other, I said weakly. Emma's smile was razor sharp. "Is it? Because when I needed help starting my yoga studio, suddenly there was no money. When my business failed and I asked for a loan to get back on my feet, I was told I needed to learn responsibility. But when perfect Victoria needed anything, wallets opened like magic." Dad cleared his throat. "Emma, that's not entirely fair." "Isn't it?" She spun toward him. "Let's talk about fair. Victoria gets a full ride to Northwestern. I get community college because Emma needs to prove herself first. Victoria gets family investment in her dream business. I get lectures about fiscal responsibility." My chest felt tight. "I never knew you felt this way." "Of course you didn't. Because you never asked. You were too busy being the golden child to notice that the rest of us were drowning in your shadow." Mom stood up abruptly. "This is getting out of hand. We're family. We can work through this." But Emma wasn't done. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her messages. "You want to know what this is really about? 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator to look into the clinic's finances." The blood drained from my face. "You did what?" "I wanted to understand exactly how profitable your little operation really was. Turns out, it's very profitable. 7 figures annually, Victoria. 7 figures, and you never once thought to share that success with the family who made it possible." She held up her phone, showing me a detailed financial report. "Your salary, your profit distributions, your equipment purchases, everything. Did you know you paid yourself a $300,000 bonus last Christmas? While I was working at a coffee shop to make rent?" The betrayal cut deeper than any scalpel. You had me investigated? By a stranger? I had the business investigated, she corrected. But yes, I learned some interesting things about you too. Like how you've been quietly buying up the medical building you lease from. Planning to own the whole thing, weren't you? More profit, more control. I felt like I was falling through space. That building purchase was supposed to be confidential, a smart business move to control my clinic's future. How had she found out? Dad's expression had shifted from embarrassment to something harder. Is that true, Victoria? You're buying the building? It's a business investment. I was going to tell you. When? Emma's voice cracked like a whip. After you owned everything outright? After you had complete control over the empire we helped you build? You invested $80,000 3 years ago. I finally exploded. I've paid that back in family dinners, gifts, and vacation trips 10 times over. You act like you bought my entire future for the price of a used car. The silence that followed was deadly. Mom sat down heavily, her face pale. Victoria, we just wanted to be part of your success. By stealing it from me? Not stealing, Dad said quietly. Emma showed us projections. With proper business management, the clinic could double its revenue. We'd all benefit. I looked around the table at these people I'd loved and trusted my entire life. So this was never about helping me. It was about Emma finally getting her piece of the pie. Emma's mask had completely fallen away now. You want to know the truth? I've resented you every single day since we were kids. Perfect Victoria, who never had to try, who got everything she wanted just by being smarter, more focused, more worthy. She started pacing around the table. Do you know what it's like to be the failure sister? To have every achievement measured against yours? To watch Mom and Dad's faces light up when you called and see them force smiles when I needed help? That's not true, I began. It is true, she screamed. And when you started making serious money, I realized I could finally level the playing field. Marcus helped me understand the legal options. Dad and Mom were easy to convince once I showed them how much you were really making. The room spun as the full scope of the betrayal became clear. This wasn't a spontaneous family business discussion. This was a coordinated attack, planned and executed by people I trusted most. But Emma wasn't finished. She pulled out another document from her purse. You're not the only one who came prepared tonight, sister dear. I have a backup plan. She slid the paper across to me. It was a formal business proposal, complete with letterhead from Marcus's law firm. If you refuse our partnership offer, I'm prepared to file a lawsuit challenging the original partnership agreement. Marcus found some interesting irregularities in how the contracts were structured. We might be able to prove that you misrepresented the clinic's potential value when you accepted our investment. I stared at the document, my hands shaking. You're threatening to sue me? I'm offering you a choice, she said coldly. Partner with your family willingly, or fight us in court for years while your reputation and your practice suffer. That's when I realized this dinner wasn't an ambush, it was a declaration of war. And the sister I'd loved my entire life had just become my worst enemy. I sat in stunned silence, staring at the lawsuit threat in Emma's handwriting. The sister who used to braid my hair and share midnight secrets had just declared war on everything I'd built. But something strange happened in that moment. Instead of crumbling, something steel-hard formed in my chest. Maybe it was all those years of medical training, learning to make life or death decisions under pressure. Maybe it was finally seeing my family's true faces after 32 years of delusion. "You know what, Emma?" I said, standing slowly. "You're absolutely right about one thing. I have been naive. I thought family meant loyalty. I thought love was unconditional. I thought people who claimed to support me actually wanted me to succeed." I gathered the papers they'd brought, including Emma's lawsuit threat, and placed them neatly in a pile. "You want to know what I've learned in the last hour? You've taught me more about business than any MBA program could." Dad frowned. "Victoria, let's not say things we'll regret." "Oh, I'm not going to regret any of this." I pulled out my phone and started typing. "I'm texting my lawyer right now. Jennifer Walsh, you remember her, don't you? She drew up those original partnership agreements you apparently thought you could circumvent." Emma's confident expression flickered slightly. "Victoria, you're being dramatic." "Am I? Let me read you something interesting." I scrolled through my messages. Jennifer texted me back already. She says, and I quote, "Any legal challenge to partnership agreements based on misrepresentation would require proof that the defendant intentionally provided false financial projections. Since no projections were provided in your case, only a general business plan, such a claim would be extremely difficult to prove and would likely be dismissed." The color drained from Emma's face. I continued. She also mentioned that filing frivolous lawsuits against family members in apparent attempts to gain control of profitable businesses could be considered harassment. Interesting legal term, isn't it? "Victoria, please," Mom said desperately. "We can work this out. We don't need lawyers." "Actually, we do." I was surprised by how calm I sounded. "Because I've made a decision. I'm exercising Section 4.3. I'm buying out your shares in the clinic. All of them. You'll have your money within 30 days, and then we'll never have to discuss business again." Dad leaned forward. "Honey, you don't have $2.8 million lying around." "Don't I?" I smiled genuinely for the first time that evening. "Remember that building purchase Emma discovered? I secured a business line of credit for exactly that kind of expansion. Turns out banks are very eager to lend money to profitable medical practices with excellent credit histories." Emma slammed her hand on the table. "You can't just cut us out. We're your family." "Are you?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Because family doesn't hire private investigators to spy on each other. Family doesn't plot legal ambushes. Family doesn't try to steal each other's life's work. I walked to the window, looking out at the tree where Emma and I used to climb as kids. You know what the saddest part is? If you had just talked to me, any of you, we could have found ways to work together that didn't involve betrayal. I would have helped Emma start a business. I would have increased your return on investment. I would have included you in my success because I thought that's what families did. We still can, Mom started. No, we can't. I turned back to face them. Because now I know who you really are. Emma, you're not a failed entrepreneur who deserves a chance. You're someone who resents other people's success enough to try to steal it. Mom, Dad, you're not supportive parents. You're people who see your daughter's achievements as assets to be managed rather than accomplishments to be celebrated. The silence was deafening. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but they looked more like fury than sadness. So what? You're cutting us off. No more family dinners, no more holidays? I considered the question seriously. I don't know yet. That depends on whether you can accept that I'm not responsible for managing your emotions about your own choices. It depends on whether you can be happy for me without needing to diminish what I've accomplished. I gathered my things, including the briefcase that had saved my entire future. The buyout papers will be delivered by Friday. You'll have your money by the end of the month. After that, we'll see if there's anything left of our relationship worth salvaging. As I reached the door, Dad's voice stopped me. Victoria, wait. We love you. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. I used to think love and family were the same thing. Tonight you taught me they're not. Real love doesn't come with contracts and conditions. Real love doesn't require me to make myself smaller so you can feel bigger. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my expanded clinic, now housed in a building I own completely. The buyout went through smoothly. Emma never did file that lawsuit. My relationship with my parents is slowly healing, built on new foundations of honesty rather than obligation. Emma and I haven't spoken since that dinner. I heard through Mom that she used her buyout money to start a consulting business, ironically focused on helping family businesses navigate conflicts. Maybe she learned something from our disaster too. The hardest part wasn't losing their money or fighting their legal threats. It was accepting that people can love you and still try to exploit you. It was learning that family loyalty goes both ways, and mine had been flowing in only one direction for years. My clinic is more successful than ever. But more importantly, I'm more successful than ever, not just financially, but personally. I've learned to set boundaries with people I love. I've learned that protecting what I've built isn't selfish, it's necessary. I've learned that sometimes the people closest to you can't see your worth clearly because they're too busy measuring it against their own insecurities. The little girl who wanted everyone to like her, who made herself smaller to avoid making others uncomfortable, who gave away pieces of herself to maintain peace, she died at that dining room table. The woman who emerged is stronger, clearer, and finally free. Sometimes betrayal isn't the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning of the chapter where you finally learn who you really are. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this from someone you trusted completely? Share your story in the comments, because sometimes the most healing thing we can do is realize we're not alone in learning hard truths about love, family, and the price of success. 6 months had passed since that devastating dinner, and I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday morning in April when my receptionist, Sarah, buzzed my office with an unusual tension in her voice. "Dr. Hamilton, there's someone here to see you. She says she's your sister, but she doesn't have an appointment." My stomach dropped. Emma. After months of silence, she was here. "Send her back," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. When Emma walked into my office, I barely recognized her. Gone was the confident, calculating woman from that dinner. This Emma looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and clothes that hung loose on her frame. She clutched a manila envelope in trembling hands. "Victoria," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to talk to you." I gestured to the chair across from my desk, the same professional distance I maintained with difficult patients. "What can I do for you, Emma?" She sat down heavily and stared at the envelope for a long moment. "I came to give you this. And to tell you the truth. The real truth, not the version I told at dinner." My heart began to race, but I kept my expression neutral. "I'm listening." Emma's hands shook as she opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of photographs. She slid them across my desk, and what I saw made my blood run cold. They were surveillance photos of me leaving my apartment, entering the clinic, having coffee with friends. Dozens of them, taken over what looked like months. At the bottom of the pile was a detailed report about my daily routines, my relationships, even my favorite restaurants. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Emma's voice broke. "The private investigation I told you about? It wasn't just financial records. Marcus convinced me that we needed to understand everything about your life to build a proper case. He said we needed leverage." I felt sick. Leverage for what? That's what I'm here to tell you. She pulled out her phone with shaking fingers. "I need you to hear something. I recorded this conversation last week when I finally understood what Marcus was really planning." She pressed play, and Marcus's voice filled my office. "Emma, you're being too sentimental. Victoria cut you out completely. She humiliated your family. We have enough information to destroy her practice if we want to." Emma's voice on the recording, "That's not what this was supposed to be about. I just wanted what was fair." "Marcus, fair? She made you look like a fool. But we can fix that. Medical malpractice allegations are very serious. Even if they're eventually disproven, the investigation alone would ruin her reputation. Patients don't trust doctors who are under investigation." My hands clenched into fists. He wanted to file false malpractice claims? Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "It gets worse. Keep listening." Marcus's voice continued, "I've identified 3 former patients who had minor complications during treatment. With the right legal language, we can make those look like negligence. Victoria's malpractice insurance would skyrocket, her hospital privileges could be suspended pending investigation, and her clinic would lose patients faster than she could count them. But those complications weren't her fault," Emma's recorded voice protested. "Mrs. Peterson had a rare allergic reaction that no one could have predicted, and Mr. Kim's infection was from his own poor wound care." "Doesn't matter," Marcus interrupted. "In malpractice law, it's about creating reasonable doubt about competence. We don't need to win, we just need to make her life miserable enough that she'll agree to our original partnership terms." I stopped breathing. He wanted to destroy innocent people's trust in their medical care just to get back at me? Emma turned off the recording. "There's more. He wasn't just planning to go after your practice. He was planning to go after you personally. He had someone following you, documenting your social life, looking for anything that could be used to damage your reputation." She pulled out another photo, this one of me having dinner with David Chin, a fellow doctor I'd been quietly dating for 2 months. He found out about David. Marcus is David's cousin, Victoria. The whole relationship was a setup. The room spun. David, sweet, thoughtful David who'd been so understanding about my family drama, was part of this conspiracy? "No," I whispered. "David doesn't even know about the clinic situation. We've never discussed it." Emma's expression was devastated. "Marcus recruited him months ago. David doesn't know why. Marcus told him you were involved in some kind of business dispute and asked him to get close to you to help mediate. David thinks he's helping his cousin resolve a family conflict." I felt like I was drowning. So every conversation we've had, every intimate moment, he's been reporting back to Marcus? Not exactly. Emma pulled out her phone again. This is why I finally realized how deep Marcus's manipulation goes. He's been lying to everyone, including me. She showed me a text thread between her and David. Emma, I need to ask you something about your sister. Marcus says she's been stealing from your family, but that doesn't sound like the Victoria I've gotten to know. She talks about you and your parents with such love, even though she's clearly heard about something. What's really going on? Emma's response, David, what has Marcus told you exactly? David, that Victoria took advantage of your family's investment in her business and cut you out illegally. But honestly, from what I've seen, she's one of the most ethical people I've ever met. Something doesn't add up. I stared at the messages. David was questioning Marcus? More than that. Emma scrolled down. Look at this. David's next message, Emma, I think Marcus is lying to both of us. I found legal documents in his apartment, plans to file false malpractice claims against Victoria. This isn't about family business disputes. This is about destroying someone's career. I can't be part of this. Emma's response, what are you saying? David, I'm saying I think Marcus manipulated us both. And I think I'm falling in love with a woman I was supposed to spy on, but who turns out to be nothing like what Marcus described. I need to tell her the truth. I looked up at Emma, my mind reeling. Is this why you're here? To warn me about Marcus? Partly. She took a shaky breath. But mostly because I realized something when I read David's messages. For months, I was so focused on what I thought I deserved from you that I never stopped to ask if what I was doing was right. I let my jealousy turn me into someone I don't recognize. She stood up and walked to the window, the same way I had that night at dinner. Marcus exploited my resentment, but the resentment was real. I spent 30 years comparing myself to you instead of building my own life. When your success highlighted my failures, I decided to tear you down instead of building myself up. Emma. No, let me finish. She turned back to me. I hired that private investigator because I wanted to find something wrong with your life. Something that would prove you weren't as perfect as everyone thought. But you know what I found instead? I waited. I found out that you work 16-hour days not because you're greedy, but because you genuinely care about your patients. I found out that you've been quietly paying for medical care for 3 families who can't afford it. I found out that you turned down 2 offers from hospital chains to buy your practice because you wanted to keep it independent and patient-focused. Tears were streaming down both our faces now. I found out that my perfect sister is actually just a person who works really hard and cares really deeply, and instead of being proud of you, I tried to destroy you. The silence in my office was deafening except for our quiet crying. Finally, I spoke. Emma, what Marcus planned, filing false malpractice claims, that's not just revenge. That's criminal. It could destroy innocent patients' trust in medical care. It could harm people who need treatment. She nodded. I know. That's when I realized this had gone way beyond family drama. Marcus doesn't care about me or our family. He saw an opportunity to make money by manipulating a situation, and he's willing to destroy lives to do it. Where is he now? I broke up with him 3 days ago. But Victoria, he's not going to stop. He's invested too much time and money in this plan. He's going to move forward with or without me. I felt a familiar steel resolve forming in my chest. Then we need to stop him. Emma looked at me with surprise. We? You came here to warn me, even though you had nothing to gain and everything to lose. That took courage. I stood up and walked around my desk. And you're right, this isn't about family drama anymore. This is about protecting patients and stopping someone from weaponizing the legal system to destroy innocent people. For the first time in months, Emma smiled, a real smile, not the calculated one from that dinner. So what do we do? I was about to find out that Marcus's plan was even more elaborate than we knew, and that Emma and I were about to become the hunter instead of the hunted. But first, I had to decide whether I could trust the sister who had already betrayed me once.